What's up, everybody, and what's up, Jayson? We're here with a brand new episode of the J Squared podcast, and we have hip-hop icon and legend Chuck D on the show. Jay, he just told us he went on Will Smith's podcast, but he really wanted to see you in particular and talk to our fans here and have a great show. We're so pumped to have Chuck D with us.
Well, he has a verse in one of his songs, many of them, and he says, most of my heroes don't appear on the stamp, but he needs to be on the stamp. Chuck D needs his own stamp because he is a legend. And I'm so excited to get going, man. This brother right here brings it in this podcast.
Yeah, we have so much from Chuck D. He is the source, the fountain of information, of knowledge. He's the best. So we have Chuck D on the show. Let's get to it right now here on the J Squared podcast.
Let's go.
I say the best for last. I had John Salley Monday.
Right.
I went down to Will Smith's. He's got a podcast yesterday. And I got Jayson Williams today. So that's...
Let me tell you, Chuck. I got to start it off telling you this, man. This is a true story. 22 years ago, first of all, my best rapper right here in front of me, Chuck D, Public Enemy. But 22 years ago, I had an accident. I act reckless. And there were some people that I knew that I affected besides Mr. Christophe and his family, and the obvious, my dad, who I looked up to as number one. But then it was also the people that looked up to me. And some of the people that I looked up to, including yourself. It was Jesse Jackson, Al Sharpton. Got them phone calls in the first day. But you know what I said? I said, always Chuck D. What did he do? While I was inside 27 months, I was wondering, what does Chuck D think about me? Because you are the gatekeeper of the community. You are totally the gatekeeper of the Black community, African-American race. And I'm telling you that we can go with Al Sharpton and Jesse. I love them both. But nobody, I remember this. It must be 30-some years ago. You guys are just starting out. Just got your name, and somebody offered you guys $250,000, Public Enemy, to do a malt liquor ad. And right. We were in the neighborhood drinking malt liquor. Matter of fact, I opened a bar and I sold malt liquor. And right. I'm like, wow, here I am. But this is the caveat. You came over and said, man, I would never take any amount of money to bring alcohol into the Black community. And we were all like, what? $250,000 was equivalent to $20 million today. And you said no. And that always stuck with me. And I always said, damn. So some things when you mess up in life, you go, who did you really affect? Like, I saw you at WABC because like you said, you got so many things going on. People say, what do you consider him? I said, I consider him a great father. I consider him a great friend. But I consider him the best rapper of all time. But I also consider him, Chuck D, as the number one activist. Man, let me tell you, because you were taking chances way back when nobody else was. Nobody was turning down money. We were taking it all. I need this. And you were talking about social issues. We'll get into it. But all that. So I'm going to tell you something, man. When I was in Rikers, when I was in Rahway, when I was in Mid-State, when I was in all these places, I always wanted to tell you, man, and not that I have to apologize every time I'm on this podcast, but if it's some people I thought I let down, you're one of them, brother, because you always had my back, man. And
you didn't let me down at all. I tried to get in touch with you, and that I couldn't get it. I said, damn, man, I want to reach out to bro, man. And it just happened to be like back in the day, it was hard to catch up with Kass. You didn't know who to start with and all that. And then you couldn't put things out there quick in the media because it's either you're gonna go to the media and they'll talk to you if A, if you're in trouble, B, if you're trying to sell something. So I knew I had this amount of space, Jayson and Jeff, to be able to say, well, if I got this time, try to, say something that's going to be beneficial. Don't be trying to tear nobody down. And it was coincidentally, like what you said about your dad, I've always had that in my life up until when he passed. Yo, man, everybody else was a step down from my parents. I mean, I'm a follower great leaders and fighters and fantastic people, but I can't compare them to my parents. And I'm not making no apology. This is the type of day, Jace, where people be making apologies because they consider that a privilege. And I'm like, well, I'm making no apologies just because I had two of the greatest people on the planet that I was witness to, in my corner at all times, to be able to be an artist, be able to be independent thinking. They were hip, they were cool in the 60s. They didn't put no pressure on us. So I knew that, I knew what real love was. But also my parents are so, they're so 1,000, right? That they'd be like, listen, wherever you see some people that need help, you stop your day if you got a better day and try to make their day better. So I can't top that, Jayson. It don't come from me. There's such terms that we don't use today. We use a lot of terms, but empathy and grace, man, are things I try to keep in my register. You know what I'm saying? And we get only but so much time to borrow this place before we transition back into the universe ourselves. So I don't think we have the audacity to judge anything, man.
And Jesse, let me just tell you this, Jesse.
Yeah.
Now you got Jay-Z, and you can have Suge Knight. You can have, give me a young rapper, Grayson. Give me one.
J. Cole.
J. Cole is my guy, St. John's, University. But you can have all these guys, and they're all great at what they do. But one thing for sure, Jesse, I want you to understand this.
Yeah.
They all, and I'm not going to speak for J. Cole. I'm going to speak for Suge Knight, and I'll speak for Jay-Z. They all travel with someone, right? And they can't go everywhere. I can go everywhere. Charles Oakley can go everywhere. Curtis Martin can go everywhere. And Chuck D can go everywhere. And I'm serious. And that's about all I know. That Chuck can go back to where he grew up and give us. Most of the time, you can't do that. You can't go back to your neighborhood because somebody going to check you or somebody going to try to make a reputation off you. But Chuck did it without raising his voice. When he just did it in a smooth way. He does it where he demands respect. Even when I was inside, they'd be like, Chuck, man, Chuck keeps it real. And keeping it real don't mean, pulling your pants down and walking sideways or walking with 40 people. It means how you represent yourself, the way you wear your hat, and what things that you have accomplished and took a chance for. Chuck, when I see Chuck, and I just for a minute, I'm going to do Imus in the morning show. I see Chuck doing WABC talking about political stuff. And I'm like, wow, Chuck D, which is still before his time. Like, he was just rapping. He started all this. And now he's doing a political show. And I'm like, but then I got to go in and do Imus and, talk about tomfoolery. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I want to do what he's doing, But Chuck don't need, he has so much respect in this game. He doesn't have to travel with anybody. He's safe everywhere.
Well, our whole job, Jayson, and the job is a joy. Listen, I'm in the entertainment business. I'm an artist. So it's not like I am doing real things like digging ditches and putting roofs on a house. I think we have to respect people doing real things a little bit more than people kind of take that for granted, and they worship machines more than human beings. They'll cry for a smashed up Tesla, but walk past a human being that might have a problem, might ask them for $1. And Jay, we got a little bit of time. They say, and the thing about it is, like, you remember that song back in the day, if you find love now, okay, now that you found love, now what you gonna do with it?
What you gonna do with it?
You gotta spread love, man.
Sure.
You can't take anything with you. You're
That's
only gonna be measured when you out of here by what you left and who you took care of, man. That's it, man. Right. So I am honored to have individual accolades, man, but I really can't do anything with the individual accolades unless I make my peers and my surroundings better. That's one thing that I always looked at you brothers in the sports world, is that part of the design was not to stay there with who made it this or that or hot or whatever, but to plant the seeds for the next generations. And here we are opening night in the NBA. And, you know, here we are like 25 years later from your career, and what you're seeing must be like, wow, outer space. But you were one of the ones that planted the seeds into the multi-personality. Matter of fact, you were the first one, even before Barkley, right?
That's right.
Jason Williams doing commentary. I mean, you absorbed so much of camera and also just this time looking at, I mean, you absorbed everything. You like when Flavor walks in a room, he sucks all the stardom out.
Right.
When you was in front of the camera doing commentary for the NBA or NBC, it totally like stopped everybody dead in their tracks. It was like, wow. And I think you were one of the first that brought the combination of the culture that was already happening, the sports lingo, the talk, the charisma, and a lot of just basic fundamental basketball talk. Because like a lot of times you get the flash, but you don't get the substance.
Right.
Sometimes you get the substance, but you don't have the flash. And Jayson was the first one. I think they had to like tone your whole glow down. I mean, because you're from the New York metropolitan area too, so that's just like another thing. It's like before this thing became a national vernacular, you already had the New York metropolitan way of gift of gab, which is something that you couldn't buy back in the day. You either had it, or you didn't. And that comes from dealing with everyday people that will check you, quick-witted cats. So you had to get quick-witted. You just can't come in the room and be a poster, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
and it said, man, man, if I go wit to wit with Jayson, I better be ready because he got wit and then some wit. And not only do you not have wit, like a hood wit, you got cross-cultural wit. That's what New York, because New York metropolitan area was built to be a melting pot. Right. So a lot of the misnomer was that back in the day, because now, the whole world is connected with, with phones. They either got an Android or iPhone. So you can go to Indonesia and get and be in a New York way of life, or be in LA or whatever, or Sacramento, and still pick it up. And then you have 50 years of rap songs that if you could sit by one and all of a sudden end up, well, I'm Raekwon today. You know what I'm saying? So you can fake it till you make it and act like whatever you want to be. But back then, either you had it and you didn't, and it came the environment, and that's what emulated out of your coverage, man. It was the thing that you just couldn't buy. You was quick with it, hip with it. I could kick the lingo like if I was in Teaneck, or I could kick the lingo if I was in Brooklyn. And today, they reward people for that.
Right.
they paid them hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars because they could be eight people at the same time. So I remember you being a trendsetter in that, and it was powerful, man. And we, as fans, cheered that on. We rooted for it, and it was fantastic. And it didn't hurt being a dude that also, playing in Jersey, scoring 20 points and pulling out 16.
Thank you, Chuck. Just we were talking about this off air. He started this, and so you started this whole generation of rap, and you think the world, your kids, is it better, Chuck, the world is today than it would have been? Is it getting better for just the young Black kids today for what you have created? Is it going in the right direction as far as the industry? You were in the rap game. You are the rap. You're the artist. You're the best that ever did it. But we also had to start somewhere. We didn't have that kind of money to say, hey, man, I can produce this and stuff. And you had, white owners and who owned the company. And then, this huge stars would get it. But, you guys never had the union. You never had it where you can really all come together and then you created something, and then the West Coast tried to create something, but yours was it was more social activist, and we did it, and we felt good. It's like when you come out of Bruce Lee movie, you want to do karate, you come out of a good sermon, you want to save the world. Every time your song, any one of them come on, we like, yeah, let's go, boy. Let's we're gonna do this, we're gonna save it. Chuck just told us how to do it, and you created this. Do you see the fruits of your labor now?
Well, like it was, you have Revolution with that's a pioneering start. And I wasn't part of that. I mean, I was old enough to be around the pioneers in the revolution of the beginning of hip hop. I came somewhere in the middle. So I am evolutionary when it comes down to the culture. My contracts and my way of life was better than Melly Mel's and Flash and the people who were kind of coming out of the Bronx that invented it, who really could tell stories of exploitation.
Right.
I came along and it was better. We saw better opportunities. We paved better roads, and we wanted to be able, because of Run DMC bringing me in, we would say, okay, let's see if we can make this look at rock face to face. Let's see if we could play the same arenas that the NBA players play and the NHL players play and still pack them and not have people tear the place up and never go back. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But that's laying the groundwork and the seeds for the next following generations. And you want to give them the gift to be able to enjoy the fruits that are picked off of the trees that are planted by people before them, but not to abuse the fruit, so to speak. And I don't look at my individual contributions, because past, present, and future has to be taken care of. That's why I'm the president, brought in by Curtis Blow, our chairman, KRS-One. I'm brought in to be a president of the Hip Hop Alliance, which is the first hip hop union. It's connected with SAG-AFTRA, which is, Screen Actors Guild. So it's a legitimate union. We look to probably by the end of the year enlist 10,000 members, and that looks over the past, present, and the future of the art form and those that are in it. Everything from healthcare down to figuring out, if you move on and transition, your siblings or your kids will be able to know exactly everything that you did as far as your monies, where they're going to go, your legacy, your estate. We have setups where it's really like a giant directory of a Rolodex of important people that make this thing legit. Well, you figure in the 50th year of hip hop officially coming next year, I mean, it ain't no big deal to take care of yourself like a grown person. So that ain't no big deal. That's something that's inevitable, that should have happened. But instead of saying what should have happened, you make it happen. The other thing, I'm a part of Hip Hop Public Health. We got our yearly banquet next week. And that was started by Dr. Olajide Williams, Laurie Benson, Easy AD of the Cold Crush Brothers, and Dougie Fresh who pulled me in. And that's just being able to have a better health initiative, not only for the people who are hip hop to push that out there, but also down to the lunchroom in the city and kids, and making sure that you can use the art form and the music to say there are better health alternatives, down to eating, down to exercising. So we're at a time where there's so many tools out there, Jayson and Jeff, that, you want to tell people, it's like, this is a wonderful time to be able to use these things to your advantage. But the difference is that every generation has to be retaught, retrained of the advantages that they have. We can't say, damn, did we do this before? We didn't have this. And they were like, man, I was born in 2020. I was born in 2003. It's like you got to go through a whole educational process in a short amount of time, because things move fast. People listen with their eyes. And this generation, they talk in short terms about getting the bag, but you gotta to grab and get the bag, you better build this. And then when you realize you got the bag, is the bag individual or is the bag to be shared? Here's another thing. Do you get happiness after seeing somebody else excel and make it. That's key, because that's a selfless life as opposed to being selfish. Because like if we working together, y'all, and I find out that you get the bag, then I should be the biggest fanatic. And I say this because a lot of times people feel like, yo, man, I started this thing, I put this thing in and all that. And because they're doing great deeds, they wait around for reciprocation. And I'm like saying, sometimes, y'all remember Johnny Appleseed?
Yeah.
Right? Let's go back to like the simplest kid story. All Johnny Appleseed did was just drop seeds, man. He wasn't worried about counting the trees and the fruit.
Right.
The picking the apples. He was like, yo, man, I'm gonna drop the seeds. So this is good. Apple a day keeps the doctor away. You know what? I don't even know if I'll be around to see the trees that I planted, man. And that type of thing, whether we talk about arts, culture, creating things, I think is the way of life, man, because it keeps you creative. You don't go back and try to figure out like, yo, man, like, where's mine? I put my thing in, where's mine? That's why they, old folks would say, well, that's not your calling. Your calling is to contribute and keep it moving. And and so here's the last thing on that. It's like old folks got a lot to give, man. And I think old folks, and I'm saying like 75 to 100, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of them in like old folks' homes, and they're living their last days and whatnot. And this keep it moving society is just like kind of like, yo, I can't, and they got a lot to give. My mom's, is still quick with it, but arthritis has slowed her down to like, it takes 10 minutes to get in the car type of thing.
Yeah.
But, we as family, it's like, we gotta take care of that. We're not throwing our moms in a home and stuff like that. And these places are full of a resource that new generations could use just with a conversation. So you like to see like new tools talk to old folks.
Right. Yeah.
So they can educate new fools. But like there's a lot of wisdom there. Right. And I don't think this society, see African society, man, they be pulling from the elders, they be absorbing the elders, and the elders are upheld, but African society be trying to use elders as a resource. This society exploits the youth as a promotion, advertising, and branding, marketing initiative. And so they take the young, sell it, squeeze it, throw it away, and cats feel like they're done by 40. And actually, really seriously, life begins at 40. Right. There's an area between 40 and 80. If you have prepared, done the right thing with your mind, body, and soul, and it's always maintenance, because aging ain't a reality show. Aging is like, you got to go to Jiffy Lube every day. You know what I'm saying? and it's maintenance. So, but the fruits of life of 40 to 80 of what you can really do, because you're able to really seriously live inside your body, because you. Right. I think that's an underrated, not taking advantage enough attribute that we could do better in this society. And those are some of the things I like to work on. It's a beautiful time. There's a lot of depression of cats, man, once they turn 40. Right. Especially if they excel from 0 to 40.
That's right.
It's like, what's next type of thing.
And the thing is that, and it ain't just chilling, you know what I'm saying? Because your lungs work, and if everything worked, then you want to figure out like, how should you work? And and I don't like to judge things by money, but you see how corporations finally figured it out. The other day, Jayson's cohorts, his peers, Shaq, Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, and then also Ernie Johnson, who's been a broadcaster, sportscaster for the last 45, 50 years. they signed probably, I think, for the biggest contracts in media history.
Yeah.
On their extension. And now we're in a time where you see a guy like Stephen Smith make 8 figures, and he started out as a sports writer.
That's right.
So the corporation have figured out, like, okay, we got the ballers and they're making their money, but we're gonna reward this area of covering the game because they're gonna be long run. They're not gonna be whether they could do 3 to 5 seasons or be the 14th man or the second man on the team. We're gonna build this area of super media. And this is where what we call micro media is stuck in between. And that's where you guys are at. It's like you guys have played the game, you know the game, and micro media is also like ownership and all the streamings and people watching on their phones, since everybody's a screenager right now. This is where micro media becomes its own force because it's quicker than major media. So major media will always try to say it's dominant because they're corporate and they could pay big bucks, but they're not going to give no ownership. But the money is so big that people are like, well, ownership, yeah. But micro media in between the players and the game and between the major media is very important. So the ownership of this show is able to give the real truth, knowledge, wisdom, overstanding, and the real deal. And that's what a lot of people want. You know, there's a million and billion people out there, and the NBA and these sports leagues have realized it. And also the music people are not as quick though. So things I'm building, like Rap Station. I have Rap Station with the 10 station channel. We're building super apps and things to organize hip hop and rap music. That's all we want to take care of our little area. But there's millions of people out there that want that. So you got to build infrastructures. And that's why I definitely, other than Jayson being one of my heroes, it was important to be on this show to be able to say that this thing is real. This and what you guys are doing is so necessary, because the new cats they gotta learn something. Because even if they're making all the money in the world, okay, what are they gonna do at post 35?
That's right.
They're gonna be sad because they didn't have the accolades, they didn't have the shining lights, they didn't have all that. They got to be taught how to transition from 35 to 70. And those are the areas, no matter what somebody got in their bank, because people's money is relative, man. If you got a little bit and somebody got a lot, you can't take nothing with you. And we know this, like Jay, like you ever have that lady that lives in a neighborhood and she lives in a 900-foot square house and got a little lawn, but it's neat as fuck. It's neat as a mug, right? And somebody got this big spread and all that. It's just like, yo, man, it's a lot of work that got to go with this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Little Miss Baker, 95, man, and the lawn is always neat. Matter of fact, she get out there and cut that little patch of grass, and it's a palace, which means it's not what you got.
Right.
It's what you do with what you have.
Right.
Because you don't have anything forever. You don't even have your body forever.
That's right.
So you gotta be, so see, the essence of life is not the bag of things. It used to be like the important thing is like, oh man, people, places, and things. Yeah. The number one resource is people. Right. And if you have the privilege to be able to get outside your own place where you might be sequestered, and that was difficult for everybody 2 years ago, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Visiting places and talking to people are the jewels of the planet and life. Things are far third, yo. Things come and go. I mean, but they reversed it to, and I mean that society has reversed it, and areas of society has reversed it because they want people to be consumers. And making people robotic consumers is what people think that's going to get their company, their situation, the bag, and so they could be rich, so they could buy things.
Right.
And it's a cycle, like you said.
And you like straight out, a fisherman goes to fish and sits in a little ass boat, there's no rhyme and reason why that person's sitting in the boat 8 hours. The only rhyme and reason is that they love that shit.
Yeah.
It's like, yo, it's no rhyme or reason. Oh, yeah, daddy going on fishing under the pond, man. And he bring his little corn liquor, you know, he go in that little boat and sit and whatnot and be there 8 hours.
Right.
Meanwhile, people inside the crib got screens and, you know, got catering coming in and whooped out there and whooped there. And it'd be like, damn, man, what should I do today? Are you bored with all the shaking to the lights? So all that is perspective. And that's what old heads can give perspective. Because once you got perspective, man, you good to go, man. Because that makes you be able to have some empathy and also sympathy and also energy, you know, and able to give energy. That's it.
Chuck, I just want to, you know, obviously there's so much to get to with, as Jayson was alluding to, you know, your social activism, your, you know, political activism, but I want to go back to the start just because you're also such a hip hop icon. And, you know, as an artist, you're one of the most influential artists that we've ever seen. So just to the very beginning, what drew you to hip hop? What brought a love for it? And how did things get going? Obviously with you in Flava Flav and starting up Public Enemy, just kind of the start of everything for you. You know, what was the origins of that?
I got a little joke sometimes with myself. I work up with IAS. And give thanks and give thanks, which means I wake up, I ain't shit. Give thanks, right? Let me see what I can do today. You know what I'm saying? Let me get this thing popping, you know. But I mean, this is just what you know. I mean, yo, man, I'm from the entertainment business. I'm not a pope. I'm not a politician. I'm damn sure I ain't never going. I can't be a politician. I can't make governing decisions of other people's lives. That's not my calling, man. Right. And if I'm ruling, well, look, number one, that's a bad way to say ruling. Number one, if I'm in public office or something like that, I can't do that because I'll be running off of emotion. So God made his call and said, yo, you be an artist, express yourself. Be an entertainer, be a sportscaster, cover, you know, that those are the things that turn me on. And I'm from that business. So a lot of times when people pin things on me, I'm like, well, you pinning it on me because there's an absence of somebody that you can pin it on that really does it.
Right.
Yeah.
And I grew up in a time, I'm born in 1960. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was alive my first 8 years. So he wasn't this ghost and this image and holiday and all. It was like, he was a real man. And people, Harry Belafonte is in the house. I mean, people in the 60s did, real people did. We had real heroes doing real shit. Right. We really didn't call entertainers heroes in the 60s and the 70s. I mean, entertainers were entertainers, you know? Heroes were real people, Malcolm X and, you know, I mean, those were real people doing real things. The Black Panther Party, Kwame Ture. I remember the first time I did a project with him, Kwame Ture is Stokely Carmichael. And I'm just like, and he says, well, keep doing what you're doing. Matter of fact, last night I saw a clip on YouTube of Huey Newton. And I remember Huey Newton coming to our concert in Oakland at Kaiser Auditorium. And this is like 89. And he was getting the buzz about Public Enemy because we formed our group out of that ideology of we're going to have to take care of our community, but we still going to we used to bring the music and have the security and also teach and also, but the music was the important thing. And so Huey Newton comes to a concert in 89 and we bring him up on stage. And so I'm blown away because at 7 or 8 years old, I'm in the Black Panther lunch program in Harlem at my grandparents, my grandmother's apartment, because my mother and father were both from Harlem. So we always had to go back to the city from Long Island, every Bronx, you know, relatives, right? But the Black Panther Party had the lunch program and the breakfast program, and we couldn't wait for them lunches to come off the truck. So here I am in 89, 21 years later, and I'm looking at Huey Newton. We exchanged numbers, and for that year, Huey Newton would call me every once in a while in the middle of the night because he on West Coast time when I was on East Coast time all the time. And we just like, just talk to me. And so half of you are like, oh, I mean, you know, and it's time to absorb. What does I got to say, you know? And those were heroes. And when they got incarcerated for a whole bunch of different reasons, as a shorty, I looked different at incarceration than how it was sold to Black folks and everybody else in this country, because everybody was going in there for what they believed. Therefore, the tricks were being played. And I had parents that were young and hip enough to be able to say, understand that this is going on. And they wasn't they were, you know, my parents are funny. They ain't like, oh man, I mean like strict upbringing and
right.
do this. Nah, they be, it's like, they some funny people, man, you know what I'm saying? So, but they would be, they keeping it 100, they keeping it 1,000. And so I'm a shorty and I'm getting and soaking in this information. So, you know, like fast forward, I'm seeing real heroes that I grew up with that did real things. So it had to humble the things that we said we were in arts and in entertainment to say, yeah, we entertain, but we can mix a little of this, mix a little of that, inspire, build people to say, all right, that's your lane, be in that lane. It's up to us to bring the lights and the dazzle and the shine to the job that you're doing over there. That's very important, because there's a lot of people doing real things that are totally like obscured. They ain't nobody, big deal. They ain't got the bag. They ain't getting no money. Who are they? And that is permeated into the last 2 or 3 generations where everybody's trying to go up, but everybody, when it comes down to the everyday person, you know, and you know this, Jay, you know, Side of Family Stone, everyday people. Or
Everyday.
what's the development? My people speech, people every day. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's very important. Matter of fact, speaking about Arrested Development, this is the last time, I mean, when you hear like Mr. Wendell,
Yes.
don't that make you cry, man?
Noted. Oh man, I play it all the time in my truck with Grayson and them when they're taking me places. But just on this point when you're talking, Chuck, you know, I was reading last night where you were talking about the United States is like one big black jail, you know, because we're locked in to mentality that limit our potential, you know, and this is the truth because I've been in there, right? And there are not many places where you go where you are rehabilitating. You know, this is a place that limits our potential, especially when we get out. You know, nobody does, not that I know any athlete, I go into jail every month to speak to a different jail. I got a little program trying to get them to get their CDL license, heavy machinery license, helping them do all this stuff. And then we got these big stars and, you know, who say we were doing reentry because reentry is sexy right now, but they haven't been through it. My phone hasn't rang. I have said, how can you know what's going on? And you just want to say you're helping somebody. Why don't you call me and ask me this? You know, ask me something about this. And you're right, because, you know, even when we leave, when I left jail, what it did to me, when I left prison, it did limit my potential. Not only that I could not get back, to which I'm so happy for Chuck and Shaq and Kenny and Ernie. Ernie has 14 adopted children that all have issues and he fights through it. It could happen to better people. And like you said, I'm glad they got the bag and I'm glad they're sharing it. I'm not angry at any of them, but we have to do a better part on rehabilitating the people that are in there, are in the jails. You know, I know we got private prisons and a couple of them now have tractor trailer simulators that we're working on putting in there so when they can come out, they can get their CDL license, but we need a lot of help. But the biggest thing, and the biggest prison that we're stuck with is the one between our ears when we get out.
Yep. Because you're in a time where real estate is your mind. And people today are not only mortgaging off their mind, but they're paying rent to somebody else for their mind. Look, every inch of land is soaked up and owned by somebody, somewhere. Where's the next real estate? This is why they built the metaverse. This is why they started with the www and the internet, to build a world within. That universe and world within is here. And now minds are programmed to where they want the minds to go. So when it comes down to us and people of color, we have to know that, because no individual will actually be one that will make sure it's all better for us. It's a we instead of a me thing. But the amount of gravity to turn that M upside down to a W is a mug, bro.
And Chuck, let me tell you something. You know, and one of the things also is that, you know, I didn't never have to prove my blackness.
Right.
I felt when I had my accident and I was reckless and I felt that I needed right now that I hurt people who were black. You know, and what I see athletes and entertainers do right now, some of you got golfers, you got basketball players, as soon as they get in trouble, the first one they call, right, is Reverend, and then they go get a tattoo of you know, Huey Newton or another black leader. You know how it goes, right? And then all of a sudden you wasn't black, right? But now you want to be black and you want the black people to help you, but you haven't done anything, you know. And I'm gonna tell you something, you know, thank God they didn't go where I went. Because if they would have went where I went, and you know, they've seen through you, like, oh, brother, you never did nothing in your community. I just got into the Hall of Fame and you in the Lower East Side for St. John's University, and I had buses coming for my own community to support me for getting into the Hall of Fame. You know, that's doing something in your community. And I'm not taking accolades, but I never had to prove my blackness, even though my mother was white. I know that 1 ounce of the black blood, what they call it, makes you an African American. I didn't have to prove it. But it's crazy when now, soon as people get in trouble, right, they got to come to, you know, even Chuck, even to today, brother, you know, they're coming to you because you're the gatekeeper. I'm coming to you right now because, man, look, if I wanted to apologize, you know, like I started the show telling you, man, you are a guy who, look, I'll give you an example. How you can hold it together. I signed this big mega deal with the Nets, and they had one caveat in it. And I said, what is it? Now, what y'all gonna put in here that, you know, is gonna max me out? I'm already maxed out. What can it? They said, hey, you know, that guy your daddy called Big Ben? And I go, who is Big Ben? Your daddy called him Big Ben, the guy with the clock. That's what my daddy would call him. It was Flavor Flav. They said, whatever you do with Flavor Flav, right? My daddy said, man, who the guy, Big Ben? You know, he can name got Big Ben, he got a big clock, you know? And he said, you got to get him Knicks tickets, you know? Because he's calling a ruckus up in here, you know? So how you held it all, together? Because I watch you like, come on, brother, you know? And that's what I didn't want. Like, I said, okay, come on, brother, I'm going to hear from Chuck. I might, you know, I'm going to hear this. You know, I know from you'd have been like, damn, okay. But one thing I'm never going to do is embarrass us again. You know, I had an accident. It could happen to anybody, the way I responded to it. But I was just hurt because, man, people like yourself, to hold it together, never get in trouble, take down their you didn't take the low-hanging fruit. You didn't take the easy money. You still hold it like you are the gatekeeper, for sure. Way back with you know, when everybody used to go, man, Chuck and them, you know, Public Enemy don't like St. John's. You know, they might be in this gang because they always support blue, and they are in this gang. And people always ask me, say, what gang Chuck down with? Because, you know, all white people think that you went to jail, you know, all the jail, you know, all the, you know, what gang is this or what gang is that. I said, Chuck ain't in no damn gang. He said, well, he must be this because he was always wearing blue. I said he was wearing blue because of Georgetown. I said, Georgetown. He supported Georgetown University. We had a father figure there. You know, I had one in St. John's, Luke Carter II, but we had one that looked like us at Georgetown who protected people there. Yeah. And you guys jumped on that, and Georgetown sales went up to all kind of African-American people were rooting for Georgetown. And I was like, Chuck, how about St. John's? You know, how about St. John's? You know, but that's how much power and influence that you have. And you maintained it and maintained it for years in the Hall of Fame. You just maintain it, no problems, and just keep going, man. It's just the way you were raised, like you said, you really had a chance not to put Martin Luther King on your arm, but actually live through Martin Luther King because you were alive and your parents are explaining it to you in real live time.
Well, thank you for that. But you know, there's a whole thing is that you can't shoulder the burden. You got to distribute to your team, and you give them love, and what comes your way, you spread it, man. That's the only number one. That's just good for your sanity. Right. You ain't the main person everybody looking at, and you like, man, that person over there, you know, boom. The more rappers that got famous and got the bag and all that, the better it is for me, because I could go and be obscured in the back, and I could work in the back room where I want. I don't want no cameras on me. I don't want to be no superstar. So I did that quite well. I was sort of like the camp counselor. Yesterday, talking to Joe Smith and Jeff, Jazzy Jeff, they were like, they were bugging me out as I was doing Will's podcast. And I said, and he gives the greetings. I said, I'm gonna go do Jason Williams tomorrow. So he says hello. And it was like, man, Chuck, man, you know, we had to always be on our P's and Q's, and oh man, I'm like, I was never like that. Right? They said, yeah, man, we were scared to mess up around you and all that. I'm like, well, cut that out, bro. Yeah, but we didn't fuck up. It was like this. I'm like, yeah, but my thing was like, yo, have fun. We going to Missouri. Just don't get locked up in Missouri, because we got you're 19 years old.
Yeah.
Right. Got your people home in Philly and West Philly and whatnot. If you get locked up in Missouri and can't come back, then you know that's on my watch as far as the tour leader, and it's on our watch as far as this tour. So that's all I was, and Tretch and Pac and all them, they always call me Unc, but okay, yeah, I'm 8 to 10 years older. I could take that, you know, but you know, somebody got to have the grown-up pants. And but the bottom line is that have fun. Wherever I saw you, Jayson, I always saw a smile on your face and you was having fun. That's what you're supposed to do as a young person, doing what you like to do. You ain't supposed to be a person like, oh, I'm a social civic leader and I spend all my time and all that, you know. And then, nah, man, have fun at whatever you do. Now, you ain't got a job where somebody is going up, punching a clock and, you know, working in a foundry and stuff like that. Okay, but everybody got to have a job, and your job happened to be that. And it's stupid for somebody to say, oh, man, you shouldn't have fun doing what you do. So you're a happy-go-lucky, happy dude most of the time. Don't apologize for no accident, please. This accident's done every day. There's planes going down. There's trains that are hitting cars. There's so much out there. The only thing we have to, nobody can master life at all. The best we can do is manage our own, keep it moving until we out. That's it, man. Don't dwell on that. Matter of fact, I reached out to Billy Baldwin, who's Alex's brother, and when he had his accident, I reached out to Billy and I said, listen, I know it's a little hectic right now, but when it all clears a little bit, you know, have Alex call Jayson Williams. And, you know, it was one of those things of they had so much going on. I mean, it's still a lot going on, but you have to have people to help people who've probably been through similar situations, because you can't have somebody from the outside that didn't have experience in something come up and, oh yeah, well, you know, we'll pray for you, or this. You got to have people help people,
right?
And helping people makes people who help people get even more help about themselves. That's how this situation should work. There's no measurement on the span of time of atrocity, loss. You got people in the Ukraine where the pushing of buttons, where they give you toll figures every day, like 116 from a mortar shell blast in so-and-so Ukraine. And the average person looks at that like, huh, well, I don't know the city. I don't even know the country. I ain't over there. So what? Yeah, you should have empathy for that too. So there's things happening every day with loss, and we have to be empathetic and keep it moving and live life, man. Simple as that, man.
Man, such incredible stuff from Chuck D, the legend. We're going to have to pack it all into another episode, which we're going to do next week, part 2 with Chuck D coming up. We want to thank you for listening, as always, here in the J Squared podcast. And don't worry, much more to come here each and every week. Until next week with Chuck D, we'll see you again on the J Squared podcast. Peace.